In this video, we're going to go over the Fling Repeat Tool. And to get started, I'm just going to bring up a symbol, which is this far right icon at the top here. And I'm just going to bring in this airplane right here. And I'm just going to left click on the screen to load that symbol. I'm not going to resize it or anything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to a run stitch as opposed to that steel stitch. And you can see it's about 0.89 inches in height and 0.91 width. And the Fling Repeat Tool is pretty cool. And the reason I chose this airplane is because it's something that I feel works really well with the Fling Repeat Tool. And the Fling Repeat Tool is located next to the text icon. And you just click on Fling Repeat here and it will load up a dialog box. And you can see already that it's come in and it's actually created a bunch of versions of that same airplane, and it's randomly placed them on the screen, and you'll see that there are different sizes. And so let's take a look at this. So right now you can see that you have the template size, and that is how big of an area you have to work with. So if you know what size you need to work within, you can actually place that in here. So if I want to make sure that I'm fitting within an 8x8 area, this seems to be pretty good for me, a 7.87. So, but you can change that. So if I was doing something different, like let's say I wanted to have 7 for the width and 5 for the height, and I hit apply, you'll notice that it actually creates that, and you can see that the output size here is 6.23 inches by 4.23 inches. And the reason for that is it's not going all the way to the edge, right? So the other thing to point out is you can see it in inches right here, and for the width and height, but you only do see it as inches if your ruler up here along the design page, as long as it's in inches, you'll see it in inches here. So if you don't see it in inches, you need to go back to your ruler, right click on it and choose inches as opposed to metric. Just a little tip there. So let's take a look at what we can do with it. In this section we have design properties. So we have a minimum scale and a maximum scale. And this is pretty important, is if you know that you don't want it to get too small or too big, you can control that here. And I'm working with a running stitch, so that gives me nothing but a running stitch for this design. That gives me a lot of leeway. I can do quite a bit. I can make them a lot bigger and smaller than each other because you can resize running stitches really easily. So let's go and let's make this 50 and let's make this 200 just to see what happens here. So when I hit apply, you can see that I have a lot smaller ones and then I have a lot bigger airplanes as well. So that's how you can adjust the size. If I made this 100 and 100, you'll notice that they'll all be the exact same size. So you have the ability to play around with this and get it to how you want, and you can see that it randomly is placing this. So now we can take a look at minimum spacing. So this is doing it at almost 0.4 inches is the space between each. If I wanted to make that, let's say, 1/4 of an inch, I could do that. That's going to be the minimum, right? So that's the closest that they would get together. And so you could go, you might even want to go down to 0.15. And it's going to give you a lot more of them. You see how that kind of works? Because I'm allowing these airplanes to get closer to each other, it's bringing a lot more on the screen. If I make this like 0.6 and hit apply, you'll notice there's much fewer because that's 0.6 inches apart. Let's put it at 0.15 and let's keep it there for right this second. So you have this checkbox right here of auto rotate. And auto rotate means it's just going to automatically rotate them a little bit. If I check that off and hit apply, notice that they're all going the same direction. It's just important to know that you can do that. I like to have it, it's part of the whole thing with the fling is flinging them on the page. Think of it that way. And so wherever they lie is where they lie, whatever direction they're going. And you also have the ability to color sort. And this is if you're using something that has multiple colors. So if it has 2 or more colors, it can automatically make it to where all of one color stitches first, then all of the next color, and so on. And that's a handy feature to have. It's located right here. So when we're looking at this design, I look at it and I'm like, that looks okay, but I want to see something else with it. It's easy to do. All you need to do is keep pressing the apply button, and it will randomly sequence them, change their angles, their sizes. And what you do is you just kind of play around with it until you find something you like. Like, I like this one. Everything looks to be fairly evenly distributed here. And so once you have it where you want, you just hit apply. And what will happen is it will bring them all up on the screen. And let me go in 3D view. You can see that I'm off 3D view here, and you can see that there's a lot of jumping going around. That doesn't worry me at all. The reason it doesn't is because I can always select it, and I can always choose to have the software resequence. And if I click that button, you can see it does a much better job. And I can also click the one right next to it that says optimize entry and exit points. And you can see that now it's going much cleaner, and they're kind of following an order here. So just a little hint there. If you're using the Fling Repeat, you might want to use the auto sequence and auto optimize the entry and exit points. Color sort is if you have multiple colors, but it automatically will do that if you choose that icon. So that's how the Fling Repeat works. And just so you know, these are all located under this one color. If I can change the color, if I select them all, I can change the color to whatever I want, and it will change the colors. But I can come in and I can select each individual one if I want. It brings it in all grouped together, but I can just ungroup it by clicking this little icon right here, and you'll see that's grouped, has a box around it. If I click it again, it doesn't have that box around the edge. So I can select each individual one now and say, you know what, I like that, but I think it should be going a little bit more this direction. I could do that. I could add a little bit more distance. I could add another one if I wanted to, just copying and pasting one. If I wanted to fill in this area, I might want to just make a duplicate of this one and put it right there. I might even want to rotate a little bit. You have the ability to do that once you bring it in, but the Fling Repeat just makes it easy to make a bunch of duplicates, make them at different sizes, and kind of spread them out and get them going in different angles. So it's a really fun tool to use, especially if you're doing something like with quilt blocks in the hoop, where you can use this as like kind of like stippling in a way, and it just is something that you can use to like kind of decorate the fabric. And so you might want to utilize it in that way if you do in the hoop quilt blocks. So that's the Fling Repeat tool. Play around with it. It's a lot of fun. It's very easy to use. You're not going to break anything, so just go after it.